Guess what? Podcasting has a diversity problem. Color me surprised. Although I am surprised there's an article from 2025 and not 2014. As the title reads, Podcasting's Diversity Problem. 64% of hosts are male, 77% are white, the USC study finds. The podcasting medium significantly trails the diversity of other entertainment avenues. Now, that's the top 100%, but it goes on to expand it to the 592, with the numbers only getting worse. So clearly there's a very clear trend here. And they point out that in comparison to this, regular entertainment, 50% of the top 100 films for 2024 had a female lead, and amongst the most popular TV shows of last year, 44.9% of the series regulars were from an underrepresented racial ethnic group. Are they truly underrepresented at that point? Considering the percentage of the population they make up, aren't they in fact actually overrepresented? But oh well, details. Let us not assault the progressive with logic today, shall we? It would be a crime most heinous. So, let's instead think about why is this the case? Because getting started with podcasting it's got to have one of the lowest barriers to entry imaginable, as all you need is a microphone and an internet connection. You don't even need a camera or a fancy model or anything like that. Hell, you need not even have any knowledge about what you're goddamn doing, really. I am a living example of that. When I first started making YouTube videos over 10 years ago now, God help me, I had zero clue about how any of this worked. I didn't know how editors worked. I edited my first clips in a free random-ass software with a watermark. I didn't know how to record anything on the screen. Again, free random-ass software. Photoshop was black magic to me. I had no education on this whatsoever. No design knowledge, no graphic design, anything at all. I literally created my logo, very famously, in fucking Photoshop. Oh, excuse me, in Paint. MS Paint, there we go. If I can make that, if I can create a YouTube channel with that and have a fair amount of success as well, surely, literally everyone should be able to, right? So why is this the case? Well, this is where good old-fashioned racism and sexism yet again rears its ugly head. Now, if you have, as I mentioned, a fairly plain level playing field here, of course you're always going to have the challenges of other competing creators, that's the thing. Making it in the streaming business today is probably harder than ever. It can still be done, we still have meteoric rises from nowhere, and frequently equally meteoric falls, see Mizkif recently for an example of that, but it is absolutely possible. Is it hard? Fuck yes. Is it very, very difficult? Will it require a large commitment? Sure. But it can happen, and again, we all started somewhere, mostly from the bottom. So why is it overwhelmingly men rather than women? Well, the reason for that is very simple. Men are far more willing to take risks than women are, that's simply just truth. And trying to start a YouTube career with the time investment required, oh boy, yeah, that's a risk. Now, the numbers are rising now with the popularity of things like VTubing, which allows you to minimize the risk to quite a large degree by, getting rid of the face aspect. And as a decidedly average to subpar male, again, that's not even a requirement for doing well on YouTube. It's simply an advantage. And then, of course, we see a rising number come up afterwards, because now the men have come in and gone, listen, you can do it. I've demonstrated it. I've essentially, in essence, conquered the space for you. At which point you see people following on. As for race, genuinely, I don't even know about that one, but what I do know is that this doesn't come out of nowhere either. So, they're talking here, podcasts have become an essential platform of information, entertainment, and connection. This study underscores both the reach of the podcasting and the opportunity to ensure the voices behind the mic reflect the audience they serve. according to the study, women were most likely to host podcasts in the genres of true crime, art, society, and culture, news, and education. Women were least likely to host programs focused on business and technology, and sports and finance. So, exactly like in the rest of society, where women tend to like certain things, men tend to like certain things, and we cannot seem to manipulate these statistics. Women of color were the least likely to host a podcast, as 6.6% of the top 100 podcast hosts were women of color. Okay. Now, we know the argument then is that we need to make this more level, right? Well, we've already been trying for quite some time. As I mentioned, a level playing field, and well, that is technically correct, but if you are the correct shade, the playing field is indeed a pinch more welcoming, shall we say. YouTube had a $100 million fund supporting black creators, capital B of course, back in, I think this was in 2020? Yeah, 2020. There you go. $100 million to you because of the melanin in your skin. Is that not enough? Are you still not making it? How about another special grant and a program for black creators? That was in 2023. Still struggling a little bit? Okay, well, we've got more. We're doing this every year now, sometimes multiple times a year. And fear not, if you possess a vagina, there is, of course, a special program for you as well. Indeed, the only group that doesn't seem to have any programs directed towards them are, well, white men. So, yes, again, a level playing field so long as you ignore certain elements of blatant favoritism, as per usual. As level a playing field as it ever gets if you happen to be the wrong color, and even worse, gender. Women were most likely to appear as guests when a podcast had a woman host. When a podcast had at least one woman host, 54.7% of the guests were men, and 54.3% were women. When a podcast had no women hosts, 82.1% of guests were men, and 17.9% were women. Hell, I can even echo this one, because that was Lum Lum's influence on me. Initially, when I was doing the podcast and bringing on guests, it was usually just random people I was interested in, or people I was hanging out with, or had like an interest in talking to. When I brought on Lum Lum, because I was like, okay, this VTubing thing is weird, what is that is, and she decided, I live here now, suddenly, I did indeed get a lot more women guests on, and I imagine at least a part of this is because it feels, well, rather weird as a male to reach out to a woman first. There are some elements of problematic social status, etc., inherent in such a thing, and having Lum Lum be the one sending out invites, well, frankly, has made that a lot easier, which has led to a much more gender-balanced Archcast, and a 100% male Stamford Bridge. Because, you know, you've got to keep the balance in there somewhere. Considering the other one deviated into people funding milking farm books, I am quite grateful for the masculine retreat I still possess with old Sargaroony. Podcasting power lies in its potential as a democratized medium, where anyone with an idea and a microphone can find an audience, as Miss continued. As the format matures, that accessibility can help challenge the old patterns of entertainment and pave the way for a more inclusive audio landscape. Now, there's the interesting thing, because yes, it has been an incredibly democratizing force. One of the primary influences in the last American election wasn't nationally broadcasted debates between the political candidates, which are hardly ever constructive in this day and age anyways, never rather just shouting matches. The most influential part was Joe Rogan, and the fact that certain people were willing to go talk to him, certain others weren't. And the fact that Kamala shied away from that alone was a major blow to her, simply because now people are thinking to themselves automatically, what have you got to hide? We've seen your interviews with friendly news agencies like CNN, where they tend to be rather liberal with the clipping tools, so why won't you simply go talk to a random dude, live on camera for a couple of hours? Because The format, too, is inherently more honest. Now, this is a problem that we are going to struggle with for quite some time. Indeed, I do have a thing planned on that just this week, in all due likelihood, because there are now far too many people who take unfair advantage of the assumption of neutrality that YouTube brings with it. And in the case of Joe Rogan again, the neutrality there is somewhat implied, yet also moderated by his own backstory as well. So, but he still attempts to have a civil conversation, whilst also attempting to bring up some points of contention too. He tried to do that with the Trumpolophagus, but, well, honestly, the orange bulldozer simply rolled right over him, so, happens, as that is actually one shortfall of the current medium as well, that you tend to have more buddy-buddy conversations, as in an ideal world, I would prefer it if we had a professional journalist class who were safe and secure in their positions, who could ask any and all ridiculously prying questions, and could simply continue to insist, "No, Mr. Candidate, you will answer this question. I am simply going to sit here and repeat it ad infinitum, and the longer you refuse to answer it, the worse you will look." But we don't have that, and we haven't had that in a very, very long time. In fact, I remember a television show in Norway called Holmgang, which is a reference to an old tradition where two warriors would go out on a holm, a small island in a fjord, and fight one another. It was a debate show which was actually rather cutthroat, and also simply it was productive. It gave people an introduction to politics and held frequent debates on countless topics, like once a week, I think. God, I wish we had something like that today, but we don't, as it made politics a far more important part of day life, which in a democracy is, again, kind of important, but I've tailed off. The point then becomes pattern of entertainment and pave the way for a more inclusive audio landscape. Now, there's the thing. If you actually do want this to remain a democratic force, one open for all, despite, again, certain slants here and there, then you should actually try to minimize aforementioned slants. But that is never the goal, is it? It is about diversity, balance, and inclusivity. This is already the relatively level playing field, and it's not enough. We've all, and again, another example from Norway, but we've tried forcing gender balance. My God, have we tried. We have attempted through every legal mean, and occasionally less than legal ones, to force gender balance in education, by gender segregation, by artificially advantaging women over men in certain studies, even advantaging men over women in studies like nurse, for example, and it just doesn't work, for the exact same reason that there is a difference between the topics that people tend to cover. This is simple social engineering. It doesn't work, and the only thing you do by forcing it is, well, ruining the marketplace. You are degrading the art of podcasting by attempting to intervene into this nonsense. Yet again, why we really do need some actual regulations on this. I know, the state ruins everything it touches eventually, but listen, the private corporations are doing a pretty damn good job attempting to ruin it to begin with. At least the government would bring a brief respite to it, and hey, theoretically, technically, it might even be able to enforce some standards of equality. For a while, anyways. But yeah, to no one's surprise ever, things aren't equal. And I'm sure, and actually no, you know what, I was about to say, I'm sure we are going to see it become more equal over time, but honestly, an article like this, in 2025, just feels anachronistic. It feels out of time. The period for these arguments are long gone, and no one approaches them with any amount of goodwill anymore. No one. Everybody knows what is being argued here. No one is confused. No one is wondering, oh, but what is the solution? The solution is a heavier thumb on the scale, one that we also know simply won't fucking work. But I'm sure they'll try. Again, well, with the swinging of the pendulum, why not? However, we are finally actually beginning to see the dawning of a brand new era with an actual level playing field. Although, considering the way the algorithm has been acting up recently, and the recent wave of mass-cancelled YouTube accounts too, I do believe I'm probably being a little bit optimistic on that one. Until next time, I've been Arch. Thank you all very much for watching, and I do hope to see you all again soon. Well, have a good day.